Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Ham Nation is provided by CashFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This episode of Ham Nation is brought to you by Legalzoom. Visit LegalZoom.com to save on your legal needs and gain access to a network of legal plan attorneys for guidance. LegalZoom is not a law firm, but provides self-help services at your specific direction. Visit LegalZoom.com and use offer code HAMNation to receive $10 off at checkout. And by Icom. For more information, visit IcomAmerica.com/HamNation. This is Ham Nation, episode number 158 for July 30th, 2014. Mr. Heil goes to Canada, eh?
This is Bob Heil. I'm back. Been gone for a while, and thanks to all the people that keep this going. Actually, I think it runs better without me. I really do. But it's fun to be back. I missed all of you. And if you haven't tuned into the program before, this is a program about amateur radio and all of the funs and frolics we have, plus all of the serious things of the emergency part of ham radio. And with us are some really cool people. One of them is down in Costa Mesa. Gordo, how are you? Gordon West, WB6NOA.
Well, I'm okay, but let me tell you, the whole Southland really suffered this past Sunday. And Brian, if you could give him that short shot that came in from Jason Gant, W6AUX with the U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary. It was a water spout that first started on Catalina Island that ham radio operators were talking all about. And then 2 hours later, it came into the Venice Beach, accompanied by a lightning strike that injured many and killed one. So for those of us here on the West Coast, we've had our share of storms. I'm happy to say, though, that there you go. That's a great shot. Thanks, W6AUX. The United States Coast Guard was right on top of that. And this weekend, we are celebrating the United States Coast Guard's anniversary, 200-plus years in serving sailors out there. And we're going to have stations overseas, Golf Alpha 14 Charlie Golf on the air at the Commonwealth Games in Glasgow. And here, Dale and I and other Coast Guard and Coast Guard Auxiliary folks will be on the air signing K1 Charlie Golf. Look for me on 28-327. Look for Dale down on 14-327, and you'll hear more from Dale and me about our operation this Saturday for the United States Coast Guard. So it's been a wild and woolly week, Bob. Back to you.
Oh, my, but everybody's safe, so that's the main thing, and I'm sure that amateur radio played a part of some of that, so super. That's great. Well, it's nice to be back and see you, Gordo. Hope you and Susie and the cats are doing well. George, how are you doing down in Mississippi? Got lots of solder projects going on, or what's happening down in Mississippi?
Yeah, we've got some going on, Bob, and let me stand up so you can see my shirt here.
Please do.
Right.
Oh, look at that. Yay.
So, yeah, we're going to heat up the soldering iron tonight and make a little smoke. It's going to be a lot of fun. And I got this shirt when I was out at the CPAC Hamfest in Seaside, Oregon, and I didn't get the name of the guy who gave it to me. I didn't get a card or anything from him. So thanks, T-shirt guy.
Well, maybe he's watching and he can let us know where it came from. Well, while we are pointing that direction, let's go on down a little further south. Don Wilbanks, and how are you doing? You doing okay?
I'm awesome. It's good to have you back. You know, while you were gone, we got an email last week from, if you remember, a little 8-year-old girl who was in our Ham Nation forum who asked, what's the best age to get her license? She got licensed. She's got her call sign now. And, of course, you remember the 8-year-old Samuel, who I met in March in near Lafayette. I got an email. Check this out. Burt Jones, N0HYD, says, I wanted to let you know that my 16-year-old son, Nick, received his ticket in May. His call is KE0ATH. He's loving ham radio. He's currently building a Go Box with a 2-meter rig, battery, and antenna for use while camping, and he is an Eagle Scout. He's an avid listener to the podcast here at Ham Nation, and if we have time, give him a shout-out. He would love it. So there you go. Nick, congratulations. Welcome to the Ham Radio family. I love getting emails and stuff from young hams. You know, I've been involved with Newsline for 20 years and the Young Ham of the Year award and everything. And I don't know if it's that connection or just the fact that I'm childish or what, but it seems like kids like to gravitate to me, and I love it. So if you're a young ham or you're young and you're thinking about being a ham, or you know a young ham, give me an email, let me know, and we'll talk about them on the radio, because we can't get enough new young hams in. That is the lifeblood of this hobby, Bob, and you know that.
Yeah, that's true. And I think next week we're going to have Abby on with us, and we're going to start having more guests like that. So be watching. Don't miss a week. Before we get moving on, I've got some stuff I brought from Canada. Gordo, did you have some more short shots for us this week?
We do have some short shots, and whenever you want them, I'll drop them right in. Brian's on the ready.
We're ready to go, so let her go, Brian.
Okay, let her roll, Brian. Well, our short shots this week is going to talk about high-frequency mobile antennas. Now, as you know, most HF mobile antennas require a 3H24 mount to get them mounted. And some of them require doing a little cutting of the shaft and sometimes some matching networks at the base. These are the popular ham sticks, and these antennas are good. They're inexpensive, and they work well. But again, they take the 3H24 threaded mount. There's another good look at a ham stick on the left side and a conventional antenna on the right. Well, what happens if you'd like to maybe just try out a little bit of 10 meters? Well, if you got a big old honking antenna like we do on the wagon on the right side, it's not real easy just to immediately change frequencies with a nice, small, lightweight antenna. And here, for those of you thinking that you could use your luggage rack as an antenna mount, what occurs on high frequency is X of C, capacitive reactance between the bottom of the 3H24 stud and the roof of the vehicle will annihilate your SWR, and you will never get it to easily load. So if you're thinking of doing an HF antenna on a bar that's elevated above the roof, let me tell you, we've all tried it, and it just won't load without a ton of matching. Much better to have that antenna right off the deck. Now, again, there's the 3H24 stud. That's usually going to take a larger antenna, but maybe you've got just a single mount on your vehicle and you're running 2 meters for 40. You've got a dual band radio tied into HF, and you say, yeah, I wish I could unscrew that with a PL259 type of connection and go with maybe a lightweight antenna. Well, Merritt and the folks at Diamond Antenna said you won't need to look like this. Oh, my gosh, all that grounding. Nope. Merritt, Diamond, and Wayne, and everyone says we've got a better way to go. So forget about having to cut and trim and do all the matching. We've got it on a deal that's going to be much smaller than the more popular antennas, very less expensive, not a myriad of traps. And no, this one won't work with a magnetic mount. In fact, on the new Diamond antennas, they tell you won't work with a mag mount. Well, there you go. So forget about marshmallows on the end of the antennas for end loading, big coils. Here it is. Coming up shortly, the new Diamond antenna for HF. First of all, this is the Diamond K400 mount, and notice it's an SO239 on the top. That means that once you get this mount mounted with the 4 screws, and remember that video we had a few years ago, watch out for that center area. You may have to bend that out so you don't close the trunk and ruin your paint job. But anyway, dog these 4 down into the inside metal of the trunk lid, and you'll have a good, solid DC ground. Tighten it up nice and tight with that very corroded Allen wrench, and you'll be set. The antenna will be well grounded. All right, we got the antenna well grounded. Now it's time to unscrew off the 2-meter 440 antenna and screw on to this spot. And notice the small coax. It terminates to much larger coax inside the trunk. But once we have this mount, there it is, the base of the new diamond antennas for 75, 40, 20, 15, and 10 meters. They screw on just like your VHF, UHF dual band antenna. And they go on there quite nicely. They are streamlined. They're not going to yank that right off of your trunk lid. And the diamond antennas, we tested them both with a Yaesu FT817 as well as the MFJ SWR analyzer, and they pop right in. And there's no need to do any special matching at the base because, as we found out, within the base, after you've tightened everything up, they've got a matching network for you. We did find that on 20 meters, 40 and 75, we did have to pull out the stainless steel whip and do about 3 inches of a hacksaw. But once we had it onto the voice portion of the band, adjustment was quite easy. The magic occurs right here in the diamond antenna base. The 10-meter antenna has a fairly large coil, as you can see right there. And most interesting, the center tip of the PL259 is capacitively coupled to the coil, and you cover the entire 10-meter band. And that's the antenna, one for each band, one for 10, 15, 20, 40, and 75. And once you've tuned them up, they just spin right off, and you put the next one on. And if you want to go into your trunk, like Don's going to do, and then drive into the garage, well, with your fingers, unscrew this portion of the diamond antenna. And look at that, it lays down, but it doesn't lay down automatically. So be sure that you remember to put it down before you drive into the garage. And a real nice, tight lay-down assembly, and it locks down so it's not going to pop out at high speeds. So with your black vehicle, it's all ready, but not on that roof rack. Nope. We've got it on the other side, and you can barely see that antenna. And look at this. This is Don. He's getting it all shined up. And what do you think, folks? You had to put that on? I'm not sure, Don. Now, you can tell us where you're going to mount this on that good-looking black vehicle. So back to you. And Bob, that's the story on the new diamond antennas. They really worked out well. They're not horribly expensive. And for giving it a try on your existing K400 SO239 mount, they work super. Bob, back to you.
That really looks good. The connector and everything, that looks great. Nice job. We'll have to play with that. But I doubt if we're going to be able to screw anything into Don's car. We'll have to check on that a little bit. I don't think so. Oh, boy. For everybody that is watching tonight, if you're not in the chat room, get there. They have a lot of fun, and Amanda's there, and she's going to take questions for some of us. So go over there, and if you have anything you want to ask us or comments or whatever, let us know. I come back home from Canada, and I had so many emails. I get a lot every day, and I love it. Keep them coming. But it's amazing how many of you want me to go back and revisit this. So I guess we're going to have to do something about this. I know we've done a couple of shows about it, but there's always a lot to do. And so we're going to work on that in a couple of weeks. I have to go to Albuquerque. We're going to be down there to Duke City Convention. It's the ARRL Southwest. I'll be there. And George, I'm also doing an SBE meeting while I'm there too, so that's good for the Society of Broadcast Engineers, and I really like to spend time with those guys. So anyway, we'll have some of that coming. One thing I have to tell you that I'm really happy about before I show you some pictures from Canada, I learned just today that CQ magazine is coming back on the stands. You can go to Barnes & Noble and buy CQ magazine. Why does that make me happy? Because people that are not in tune with ham radio, they hear about ham radio, a bunch of those ham radio, they don't know much about it. And I know years ago when they were on the stands, people would buy it and then they would know more about it and they would get involved. And I know several of my friends back in Southern Illinois that become hams because they bought the CQ magazine on the stand. Gordon, you knew about that? Did you know about that deal?
Yep, they've now come back on 3 different types of newsstands, and we are delighted. fresh new look for CQ, and I just can't say enough for their success to be.
Yeah, I really like it. I know they've had some problems. Hey, in business, we all have problems, but the thing that makes a strong company is they did something about it, and I'm really excited. So it's a new world, and they got their digital thing happening. So yeah, it's cool. It's really cool. Well, while I was in Canada, I got to visit one of our large dealers there, which is Radio World, Jack Summers and all the guys. And we did a workshop at their Hamfest, at the Milton Hamfest. So let's roll some of those pictures and we'll talk through those. You can see Miss Sarah there in the background, too. We had such a good time. And we had such a good time. And that was one of the workshops we did there. Yes. This was really cool. Check it out, George. This guy has a kit. It's going to be in September QST of how to take your Heathkit scope and while it's not doing things with RF, it's a clock. Wow. I thought that was pretty clever. How about that? And boy, Randy's going to like this. You know, Randy builds a lot of stuff in tins. I think you do too, George. And they were selling these little tins for 25 cents. George, that means you wouldn't have to buy a bunch of Altoids.
Yeah.
That's pipe tobacco tins. That's cool.
That's cool, isn't it? But look at this. An original little mini. Don, is this right or what? That is cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I saw some really great gear there. And the things that sometimes you don't see here, but that they have a lot of interesting things. That was their talk-in station out underneath a shade tree where they should be. And they had a really great trailer I'm all right. tailgate session. That was really super. You can see how big that is. That's nice. And I thought of you, Gordon. Here's a guy that had a whole stand of LEDs. Yay. Yeah. And good stuff. Had a really nice looking HW101, the Heathkit copy to the Collins KWM2. Same engineer. They stole the Collins engineer. Look at this. This was beautiful. A national NC57, and I don't think that it was restored. I think it was original. It was beautiful. If I could have got that in my suitcase, I would have brought it along. And, you know, we're talking about scopes all the time. You can buy some of these scopes for 15, 20, 30 bucks, and I advise everybody to look around and find a scope. Make sure it gets a trace on it so it works. And we've talked about it before. And, hey, what would a Hamfest, George, be without tubes, right?
Yep.
A lot of tubes. And there weren't any strange ones, but look at that, man. A Macintosh tuner. Oh, buddy, that's an audio Macintosh. Beautiful stuff. Tektronix. This guy had a really interesting group of stuff for sale and really nice. I didn't get to check back to see if he sold some of it. But that Macintosh was nice. And here was Simon. Simon used to be one of the service managers at Waters and Stanton in London. Waters and Stanton is our distributor over there. But he moved back to Toronto, and he had his new daughter, and I thought that was cool. Here's the guys at Radio World, and they really put a nice show on, and I was very, very happy that they invited me to come up and spend the time. And here's another one of the Ham Nation viewers, and we had a good time speaking about things of the show and what they liked and all that stuff. It was really good to see a lot of guys. But then we had a special visitor, and that was in Mike. And I think you got Mike's picture there somewhere. Brian, check that out. There he is. Hey, Mikey. He's alive and well. And we had a nice chat and got to talk a little bit about radio and a little bit about Ham Nation. So thanks a lot for all you do, Mikey. I'm not looking at the chat room this second. I should be because it's probably going wild. So you're a real famous chat room person. So that was some of my escapades when I was in Canada. Sarah and I and Michelle and Ashley went with us. And it was really great. Really, really great. And so we appreciate it all the times. So be sure you get your questions in to Amanda. She's going to have time to come here at the end of the show and talk about that. And also, Yeah, my pictures, okay, they're all right. They're all right. But down a few minutes after things get rolling here with George is Dale. Dale's coming on with some really cool videos. He always has great videos, so stick around for all of that. So I think right now what we're going to do is we're going to go hear Don talk about Legalzoom. I think it's got something to do with keeping us all in line, right? Take it away, Don.
Yeah, just like CQ Magazine is getting their affairs back in order, you need to make sure you do the same for yourself. And most Americans don't have a will, but the question is why? You don't want the court dictating what happens to your property and your minor children. So why procrastinate? Most people say that wills are too expensive, it's too time consuming. Well, no, it's not. And the answer is LegalZoom.com. LegalZoom prices make sense, and it just takes 20 or so minutes to do it. LegalZoom guides you through from start to finish. Now, LegalZoom was developed by some of the best minds in the country, and they make it so painless for you to go out and get the legal help that you need. Helping people become legally protected has been their mission and passion for over 13 years. Did you know that this is National Make a Will Month? It is. And you can get special pricing on wills and living trusts by entering the offer code HamNation in the referral box at checkout. Here's what you do. Protect your family, protect your future, and you do it with LegalZoom.com. Use offer code HamNation, save on your legal needs. Also, get access to a network of legal plan attorneys for guidance. Now, LegalZoom was developed by top attorneys to provide self-help services at your specific direction, but they're not a law firm. Legal help is furnished through vetted, independent attorneys. And LegalZoom, we thank you so much for your support of HamNation. LegalZoom.com, offer code HamNation, save on your legal needs, and more. And now let's see if George has that soldering iron fired up. I think I smell something warm.
I do, Don. Well, actually, no, the light's off. But I have had it soldered up, and I made one of these. This is a neat little kit here. I ran into these guys when I was at Dayton Hamvention this year, and they gave me one of these, and I just now got around to building it. So let's take a look at that. The Ears to Our World organization believes access to information is access to education. They provide innovative, simple, and appropriate technologies to schools and communities in remote, rural, and impoverished regions of the world. They learned how important the little LED lamp on their self-powered radios is, especially to communities that live largely or entirely off the grid. So they created an easy-to-build kit for a bright, long-lasting LED mini lamp that's powered by a surprising resource, the residual energy in depleted AA batteries. The finished devices used in the field are mostly built from recycled parts for an environmentally light footprint and can be sold and the profits reinvested in local schools, health clinics, and other crucial services. In 2014, they decided to make a simple kit, the Humanilight, that they can sell on the market and use the proceeds to fuel their mission. School children, makers, experimenters, and hobbyists will all find this a fun kit to assemble and a useful light in times of emergencies. And we're going to build one here today. Let's begin by taking a look at the kit. There's a little manual here that tells you about the kit and gives you the instructions on building it. We've got the PC board. Only a few components here. We've got a battery holder for our dead AA cell, a couple of transistors. We've got a coil here. We've got a little single pole double throw switch, but they're probably only using one throw on that. A small capacitor, a couple of different LEDs, so I guess you could choose whichever one you wanted to use. We're going to use the big one here, though, and a couple of resistors. So not a lot to this. Let's get started. They want us to install the inductor first, and that's this deal here that looks like a capacitor with a piece of heat shrink over it. And then we take the larger of the two resistors. This is a 10K, it's resistor R1. Next we take the smaller resistor, which is a 100K, and install it as R2. Next we'll take the capacitor. It's marked 471. This is the only capacitor in the kit, so we probably can't mess this up. Now before we go any further, I'm going to solder these into place. We'll start out with a soldering iron that's got a good clean tip that's been tinned. We'll put the tip right there on the board where it'll touch the lead and the board at the same time, and feed a little solder in the bottom side here. Now we'll clip the leads off of these. Now next we should install the LED, and we've got two different choices here. You could use the smaller one and just install it right here, coming straight, and this would make a good light for book reading. Or you could install an LED out the end like this and use it like a flashlight. That's the way that I'm going to do it. Now you'll notice on the LED, it's got one side here that's flat. We match that up with the flat side here on the board. So we'll want to bend our leads and affix it just like this. Now we'll insert one of the 2N3094 transistors. We'll do Q2 first, and you'll notice that there's a flat side on the transistor here. We match that up with the flat side drawn on the board. Then we'll do the other transistor, and we'll notice the flat side is on the opposite direction on this one. Now let's solder those in place. And now we've only got two parts left to solder in, and that's the switch and the battery holder. We'll do the switch next. Now this is going to be a little bit trickier to hold in place. So I've turned the board up sideways, and I'm going to solder the center leg first. And now I'm going to press a switch into the board and then release the soldering iron so that it gets seated in the right position. Now we can do the other two. And then the final part here is going to be the battery holder. The positive end goes this way, and you can see it's labeled positive inside there. Now let's see if it works. The first battery I'm going to try is one here that's brand new. It measures 1.58 volts. Good bright light there. And keep in mind, this LED is probably rated for more than 1.5 volts, but we're powering it from that. Now let's try a couple others. This one came out of a mouse. It measured 1.3 volts. And you can see it's practically as bright as the fully charged battery. Now here's one that came out of a Walkman that probably has not been used in 8 years. It measured 0.4 volts. Well, 0.4 volts is just a little too low to get any light out of this. So I got to thinking, where can I find a dead battery around here? And I found the perfect place, and it was in the remote control for the Nintendo Wii. I found a battery in there that measures 0.77 volts. So a good test case for a completely dead battery. And we've got a little light there. It's not as much as we had with a fully charged one, but then this battery has been dead for quite some time. So there you go, the HamNationVideos. A great little easy to do project. It would be a perfect first soldering experience. Reliable electricity is still not available to 25% of the world's population. This simple light source is powered by a simple AA cell, and it lasts up to 5 weeks. The simple yet magical circuit dramatically extends the life of the AA cell. You can even insert a dead AA battery and it will light for days. You can find the HamNationVideos at universalradio.com for only $15.95. So there you go, a great little interesting kit there. You know, I actually took it and I tried connecting a AA cell just direct to the LED there. Won't even light it. It takes 2 of them before the LED even turns on. So it's kind of amazing that it runs off a single 1.5 volt AA cell and even dead batteries. So nice little kit, and they're doing some good work there. And this is for a good cause. So go check it out. It's could be handy. And I tell you what we're going to do. We're going to turn it on right now, and this is a fresh battery in here. I'm just going to leave it sitting over here on the bench, and we'll check back next week and see if it's still lit. That'll be interesting to see. Last week I asked a question. In the U.S. and Canada, the national standard that specifies nominal voltages says that we have 120 volts in North America. And I asked, how much can that voltage vary and still meet the spec? Well, we had a winner on that, and it's John Davis, WA8YXM. And John said, a pair of the standards folks, in the United States and Canada, they specify that the voltage at the source should be 120 volts, and they'll allow a range of plus or minus 5%. So congratulations, John. We're going to send you this MFJ line voltage monitor. John lives in a motorhome, so I'm not really sure where to ship it, but we'll find out and send it to him. This could come in handy for him. So congratulations. We'll be getting that out to you this week. So for next week, I've got another question, and I've got one of these little Humanolites I'm going to give away here. Now, there's nothing in the instructions or on the website that tells how this thing works, how it can take a lower voltage and light that LED. So if you think you know how they're doing that, then email me at hamnationcontest@gmail.com, and you could win this little Humanolite kit. It's a lot of fun to build, real simple, a great starter project. Well, right now, I believe it's time for a little bit of news with Don Wilbanks.
From Amateur Radio Newsline Report, number 1928, these are the Ham Nation headlines for Wednesday, July 30th, 2014. The ARRL and the Federal Emergency Management Agency have announced a new memorandum of agreement destined to enhance cooperation between the League and FEMA in the area of disaster communication.
Calling radio one of the most resilient communications technologies we have, FEMA Administrator Craig Fugate penned his name to a memorandum of agreement with the American Radio Relay League to further mutual cooperation in times of disaster and preparing for such emergencies. The new agreement will allow FEMA and the ARRL to work together to provide resources, services, and personnel to fortify the relief agency's capacity in certain areas. These include emergency communications, disaster preparedness, along with response and recovery assistance. It will also task the two with jointly raising public awareness about the use of amateur radio as a public safety resource. The agreement also outlines the ways in which the two organizations will cooperate to carry out their individual responsibilities with respect to disaster mitigation, preparedness, response, and recovery operations in the event of a natural or man-made disaster. And to quote FEMA Administrator Fugate, amateur radio is taking that hobby and turning it into saving lives.
Bill Pasternak, WA6ITF, reporting. FEMA Administrator Craig Fugate holds the call KK4INZ. A small Australian high-altitude floater balloon, signing the call VK3YT-8, has reached South America and is now believed to be headed further east.
The Pico balloon was the idea of Andy Nagayan, VK3YT. Along with his support team, VK3YT launched the tiny balloon carrying amateur radio tracking gear from central Victoria State in Australia on Sunday, July 13th. The balloon traveled eastward across the Pacific Ocean, eventually reaching the South American coastline. It did not land, but continued its trek east. According to its last copied APRS data, it appeared to be at an altitude of about 29,000 feet and some 50 miles north of Brasilia. The belief is that the floater balloon left the Brazilian coastline on the morning of July 22nd and is continuing to fly eastward. Where it will finally come to rest is at this time unknown, but some low-altitude floater balloons have been shown to have an almost unlimited range. For the Amateur Radio Newsline, I'm Stephen Kinfert, NAWB reporting.
Floater balloons are typically silverized party balloons equipped with micropower APRS beacons. You can get the latest information by putting the call VK3YT-8 into the APRS.FI tracking website. The FCC is cracking down on interference in the 20-meter band. Here's Newsline's Hal Rogers, K8CMD.
On July 22nd, the FCC notified Michael Guernsey, KZ80 of Parchment, Michigan, that it was proposing to fine him $22,000 after agents monitored transmissions from his station for approximately 40 minutes on March 7, 2014. During that time, the FCC says that the agents heard him transmit a pre-recorded song and other noises on the frequency of 14.313 megahertz, which interfered with the communications of other radio amateurs. Also, on July 22nd, the regulatory agency issued an $11,500 notice of apparent liability to Brian Crow, K3VR, of North Huntington, Pennsylvania. In this case, the FCC says that this past March 14th, that its agents spent 3 hours monitoring transmissions purportedly emanating from K3VR station. At that time, the agents claimed to have heard the station transmit slow-scan television signals, as well as a recorded voice transmission of another amateur station.
KZ80 and K3VR were each given the customary 30 days to pay the proposed fines or file written statements seeking reduction or cancellation of the forfeitures. And finally this week, a historic radio transmitter has been saved from the scrap heap. Amateur Radio Newsline Skeeter Nash, N5ASH, has the story with a happy ending.
After the announced transfer of the Voice of America broadcasting station in Delano, California to the General Services Administration for disposal, had potentially sealed the fate of the last complete Collins Model 821A-1 250,000-watt high-frequency auto-tune transmitters in the world. Meantime, the Collins Collectors Association and the Antique Wireless Association had formalized an alliance named the Collins Radio Heritage Group. Hearing of the potential loss of the transmitter, the latter group, working in cooperation with members of the Arthur A. Collins Legacy Association, began campaigning to save some of the significant historical artifacts related to the Delano Voice of America transmitter site. In December of 2013, a proposal was submitted to the Voice of America and the Government Services Administration to recover, preserve, and display the transmitter and the studio control console from the Delano site. This past May, the proposal was approved and recovery began. The effort was recently completed, with these artifacts and other associated remote gear being removed and shipped to the Antique Wireless Association Museum in Bloomfield, New York, where they will be exhibited.
And that's all from the Amateur Radio Newsline, your independent source for amateur radio news, brought to you each and every week for over 35 years and counting at www.arnewsline.org. I'm Don Wilbanks, AE5DW 73. We'll see you next time here on Ham Nation.
Some great D-Star radios have entered the market in the last year, but let's not forget all the solid analog radios out there. From radios strictly on 2 meters to dual banders with analog capability, Icom has your complete analog solution. Check out Icom's compact military rugged 2-meter IC23H mobile, 65 watts of stable output. Oversized tuning dial is easy to use. It's got 4.5 watts of loud audio, 207 memory channels, and multiple scan options. Consider the ICV8000 for your next mobile adventure on 2 meters, 75 watts of output power, a rugged die-cast aluminum chassis, and fast memory scanning with dynamic memory scan. Icom's new ID5100A is a VHF-UHF dual-pan transceiver with built-in D-Star. It's got a large 5.5-inch touchscreen with software keypad and SD card slot, 50 watts of output on both VHF and UHF, integrated GPS receiver, simultaneous 2-receive capability, and an optional UT133 Bluetooth unit that supports hands-free communications and an Android app. Looking for rugged, easy-to-use handhelds with plenty of memory channels, loud audio, and long-lasting battery life? The ICV80 and the V80HD is a 2-meter handheld with 5.5 watts of high power. A built-in BTL amplifier helps deliver 750 milliwatts of loud audio, and the HD version includes radio, lithium-ion battery pack, and a rapid charger for up to 19 hours of operation. The ICT70A HD is a dual-band transceiver for classic operation on 2 meters and 70 centimeters. Like the V80 HD, this version includes the radio, lithium-ion battery pack, and the rapid charger for up to 19 hours of operation. It's easy to program with a simple keypad, large backlit alphanumeric display, and it has 700 milliwatts of loud and clear audio. Why not take a look today? Visit icomamerica.com/amateur for more information on Icom's analog ham radio selection. And you can tune in and enter to win after each episode of Ham Nation. Go to icomamerica.com/hamnation. Throw your name in the hat for some great swag prizes from the Icom swag store. They've got T-shirts, hats, and a lot more in there. You'll also automatically be entered in the monthly grand prize drawing, which will, for July, it's going to be that ID51A, the great full-featured dual-watch VHF-UHF handheld with D-Star, integrated GPS, automatic repeater list-up, and a lot more. So go to icomamerica.com/hamnation after this episode and each episode of Ham Nation and register to win. By the way, this is the last chance you've got to enter for the July grand prize drawing there, so go enter now. And I guess it's time that we go to Dale, and I believe Dale's got some more videos for us this week.
A lot of videos tonight, George. Had a good weekend. Wrote an Apple script to move data from FL Digi to MacLogger DX and got it published there. And had a nice article written about it in one of the MacHam.com sites. So that was a nice weekend. Got a great weekend coming up with a Coast Guard event. Gordo and I are both going to be on the air at about 2 o'clock Central Time, 1 o'clock rather, Central Time on Sunday. Should be a lot of fun. We'll be operating as K1CG. And before we sign off here at the very end of the video segment, we're going to do a 30-second salute to the United States Coast Guard, 224 years young on Monday. Well, right now, we've got 2 sets of photos from our Ham Nation viewers. We'll kick things off with a look at the photos you sent us, capturing your 2014 field day. Let's take a look. You were busy at field day on the weekend of June 28th and 29th, and many of you submitted photos. Let's take a look at those. At the Salted Hams Club field day, the shack was waiting. The generator was running, and the operators, Perry, N5PJ, Jim, WB0ZWW, and Jeff, WD0GTY, were ready. They made 452 contacts. Here's the interesting tower they used during the Great Salt Plains Field Day in Oklahoma. Here's the site of the WA9MC operation run by the Marion County, Indiana ARES. Tony, KU9V, sent the photos. The operators were busy all day and all night, and here's the entire crew outside the EMS van. Scott, K6OZY's son Jacob, KG7LIE/AG, makes his first contact as an AG after coming home from the VE test, all excited about field day. His first contact was with W1AW/9. Scott sent us photos of the Phoenix Thunderbird Amateur Radio Club field day. It was an all-Flex 6000 series event. There were 4A, or they were 4A, with a 6700 and 3 6300s. They used the 6700 on CW, a 6300 on PSK 31, and a 6300 on single sideband, all on 20 meters, all at the same time, without interfering with each other. Their antennas were all within 400 feet, and all stations were running 100 watts. Here's a screenshot from the 6700. Here's 14-year-old Daniel, KD0WAP. He passed his exam at field day last year, and this year pulled an all-nighter working 20 meters at the Joplin Amateur Radio Club field day in Joplin, Missouri. Steve, WL7YQ, sent us the photo. Here's a photo of the operating position at the KH6MHE field day. It was set up at KH7Y's station. They made 863 QSOs, 533 on CW, the rest on single sideband. They had a final score of 1146. Here's the site of the W6Z Echo field day. That operation was in Orange County, California, and there were lots of antennas. Here's the 6-meter OP-DES Yagi and the satellite antenna. And here's the K7JA PMRL. That's a poor man's rocket launcher. Thanks to Chip K7JA for those photos. At KE4FD, they used an RTTY station set up with a Commodore 64 vintage 1982, paired with a Microlog Air-1 terminal unit and a Kenwood TS590S. They made 75 RTTY field day contacts on 80, 40, 20, and 15 meters. The operator in the photos, Corey Welch, N4UVR. Photos are courtesy of Jim, K4LIX. And finally, during field day at VFW Post 3115 in Wichita, Jeff Wagner, W0JMW, made his first contact with a ham radio celebrity, Working Randy, K7AGE, the Jetty Master who first got him started with PSK 31. The Post Club worked phone, digital, and CW to complete about 500 contacts. And that's a look at the 2014 field day photos you submitted to Ham Nation. Keep those cameras warm during the winter. We'll look for more photos from you and your 2015 field day. Well, thanks to everyone who submitted their field day activities from 2014, along with a big thank you to Jim. He's W5JCS down in Stillwater, Oklahoma. He sent in the photo of that unique tower, or was it a tractor, at the Great Salt Plains field day. Now let's take a look at your shack. Welcome to Show Me Your Shack. Photos of the many ham shacks we've received during the past 6 weeks. Orland, K0OJ, saw this on a friend's Facebook page. And he finally got to meet Amanda at the Pikes Peak Radio Amateur Radio Association's Mega Fest this past weekend. This is the shack of Roger, KE4BFG. And here's Roger on the air. How about Tomei, OH2HQE? He has Ham Nation and eggs for breakfast. Bill, AB9QU, uses a Kenwood TS2000 with an Amatron amplifier in his shack and an Icom IC7000 in the car. Well, here's Dan, then WN5CYR, working CW in the early 1960s. He was 13 or 14. Today, Dan operates while his 12-year-old grandson Taylor keeps the log. And here's another view of Dan on the air. Here's Kent, K6DKO, and his trusty vertical antenna, and a shot inside the shack. This is Arnie, K5ARN. He's at a Hamfest, and here's his summer home in Sweden. Old Glory flies there every July 4th. George, K2GTV, operates from this shack at Oceanside on Long Island in New York. And here's a close-up of George's rig. Tony, M3OVA, tells us he thinks this little critter slipped off his antenna wire, just a bit more than he could chew. Steve, KC8DRM, passed his extra class exam at HamCon in Plano last month. He was very happy to let his son Kevin meet Gordo and get an autograph. O'Brien, K0BAS, brought this Icom IC756 from a man who was less than honest about its condition, but he didn't blink. He bought new knobs and cabinet screws from Icom and rebuilt it. Here's the finished product. Here's the shack operated by John, K5DVT, out of Huntsville, Arkansas. He also wanted you to see his messy workbench. Tom, WB8N of Bedford, Ohio, sent this picture of his shack. He was one of the great volunteers at the Ham Nation booth in Dayton this year. He runs a Yaesu 1000 MP and a 500-watt amp he can use when needed. His main antenna is a 2-element quad up on a 40-foot tower. Dave, AD9Z, uses this rig at his shack in Toulon, Illinois. He operates a lot of CW with the Icom 7410 and a square brass racer paddle. In the car, he uses the Icom IC7000 and a Code Warrior Junior paddle. And this is his mobile antenna. Mark, W5MHG, uses a 706 M2G to operate PSK 31. He also has an Icom 718 for HF use. The 27-inch iMac is reserved for watching Ham Nation. And here's Sammy, Mark's Beagle, W5DOG, using his FT60. That's 30 for another Show Me Your Shack. Make sure to send your photos to HamNationVideos at twit.tv. We should have enough for another edition on the August 27th broadcast.
Well, that's it for a PhotoPack video segment. We have one video, though, a 30-second salute to the United States Coast Guard. Semper Paratus. Hey, check it out. And we'll have a lot of fun on Sunday afternoon. Both Gordo and I, Gordo up on 10 meters at 28,367, I believe it was. I'll be on 14,327. And we'll be operating, both of us, as K1CG, Kilowatt 1 Charlie Golf. So check it out. And there'll be activity on all day during that day to celebrate the Coast Guard's 224th birthday. That comes up on August 4th, which is Monday. Well, that's it. Don't forget to send your nominations for the club website of the week and your photos and your video links to HamNationVideos at twit.tv. Remember, all videos presented here on Ham Nation are available for viewing anytime at hamnationvideos.info. Tell your friends. Amanda's up next. She has questions from the chat room. And Amanda, speaking of questions, how was the Pikes Peak Megafest this past weekend?
It was great. Thanks for asking, Dale. I met a lot of fans out there, and I think one of my biggest, K0OJ, great guy, and I was so excited to finally meet him. I've talked to him several times on the radio, whether it be the local repeater or on HF, so appreciate that. And thanks, Dale, for a wonderful video. I think you got a lot of response there on the chat. With that, let's get into some questions. By the way, you guys, I will be in Albuquerque. I'll get to meet Bob, Ray. Look forward to meeting some of the gang there. I'm really excited about it, actually. So my first question is for Gordo. And, oh, I don't see Gordo anymore. Did he get dropped too? Or he wasn't here? No?
Yeah, he got dropped.
Yeah, he probably went away, yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll ask that question later. And anonymous questioner will answer it later. Okay, let's see here. Let's get to some of the questions. Let's see. Okay, let's send this out to Don because he's been doing this recently. And I know Gordo brushed up on this by talking about one antenna tonight. So you guys just bear with me here. KD8GWK asks, what kind of car antennas are good for Icom IC7100s? Don, can you give it a go, a list there that he can choose from?
Well, I can tell you what I use. That I have, I used it on my Jeep. I've used it on any number of vehicles. I have it on my Toyota now. For the VHF UHF side, I have a Comet 2X4SR. Comet 2X4SR. That's for the VHF UHF side. The SR stands for Search and Rescue. It's very broad banded, and it's black anodized. It's extremely rugged. That is an excellent antenna. It does have a tilt-over base as well. So that Comet CA 2X4SR. And for the HF side, I've had really good luck with Tar Heel antennas. I've been using the little Tar Heel 2, which is the small one. The original little Tar Heel 2, which they don't make anymore, is 6 meters through 40. The little Tar Heel 2 goes all the way through 80, and I believe it handles 200 watts. So that's plenty more than what the 7100 puts out. I used that setup on Icom 706 Mark IIG and on my Icom 7000. And it works well. And those K400 diamond mounts that Gordon talked about earlier work perfectly on both of those antennas. So there's a quick answer on that. I've had good luck with those antennas.
That's great. Thanks, Don, for your answer there. Yeah, those Tar Heels are pretty cool. I like those things. Let's see. Mr. Skeeter Nash, N5ASH, he asks, and I'm going to send this to George, by the way. My new radio room's AC power outlets are not grounded. They are two-prong, polarized. Should I do any special grounding of my gear? Take it, George.
Well, if you ask Bob, he would probably say no. Because he likes to use the ground lift isolators in there to kind of prevent ground loops. Yeah, I wouldn't think you'd do anything other than normal, Skeeter. There's probably a lot of opinions on that, so I'm a little hesitant to answer it, but I wouldn't think you'd do anything special. It would be nice if you could rewire it for three-prong outlets in there, but you know, that's not always an option.
That's good. And Skeeter, so what he's saying is take his advice with a grain of salt. No, I'm just kidding, George. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. And by the way, you guys, the antenna that Gordo was showing earlier, I have that same one on my pickup truck. I absolutely love it. Can go through the car wash. How about that? Okay, let's see. I've got a couple other questions here, mostly for some people that aren't here anymore. Sorry, I'm delaying. Okay. Mike SM0TSE asks, can anyone in the room recommend an iOS app for brushing up on CW? I'd like to get back to 20 to 25 words per minute. Really? I'd like to do 5, if possible, by the way. Anyhow, can anyone take that? Don, would you like to take that question? Just in case anyone wasn't paying attention.
Yeah, I don't have my iPhone with me. I'd have to run out and get it. But there was, if Ray, N9JA, is still in the chat room, he can answer that because during Dayton, Icom was talking about Morset, I believe it's called. Morset, M-O-R-S-E-I-T, Morset. That's it. It was free back in Dayton. I think you may have to pay a little something for it now. But Morset is really, really good for both generating and decoding CW. In fact, I used it at work not too long ago. I had to write a commercial, and I needed it to make it sound like a news bulletin. So basically, I put a string of CW at the beginning. It was for the Jay-Z Beyonce concert that we had down here, which was the On the Run tour. So I typed in On the Run tour, and I let it go by at like 25 words a minute, and so in the beginning of it, and I let that run for about 10 seconds in the commercial, and it sounded just like a news bulletin. And only Ham's probably caught that, but Morset, M-O-R-S-E-I-T for the iDevices, that would work really good for that.
And Amanda, on MacHamRadio.com, there's a list of both Mac and iOS programs you might want to have them check out.
Yeah, good resource.
That's great, you guys. Lovely. Thank you so much. I don't know much about Mac. I'm definitely an Android user myself, so appreciate the input. And thank you, Ray in 9JA, for your input on chat on that as well. Appreciate that. I just wanted to make sure we talked about that in case somebody was not paying attention to the chat. It's so funny. VE3MIC, who was just featured this week by Bob. Thank you so much for that wonderful picture. He mentions, how did Bob meet such wonderful HN hosts? Oh, boy, if we could all answer that. Anyhow, I look forward to Bob's answer. Let's see. I've got a couple others here late on the show. I'd like to mention KC7 FPF is reminding us that N4N Lighthouse on the Air on Saturday from Mount Dora. So that must be a special event there. Thank you so much for announcing that. And I'll repeat it here. November 4, November. Listen for that on Saturday. Not sure what bands, of course, but check it out. And one more question here. I'm going to send this one out to George as well. KK4SXX. Lee asks, any idea which is better, a fan dipole or offset fed Windom? What do you think, George?
Good question. Fan dipole, you know, is just multiple dipole elements all connected at the same feed point, so you don't need multiple transmission lines. An off-center fed, you know, is you take a regular length dipole and you cut it about 1/3 of the way down, and you put a balun right there. Probably, I'm just guessing on this because I don't really know. The fan dipole might be better, but I know a lot of people that use the off-center feds.
You know, I use the off-center fed myself, and I'm thinking a fan dipole might be a little more difficult to put up just because you've got all these different various antennas on the same thing. But the thing about the fan dipole that just hit me, and Bob preaches about using resonant antennas all the time, and what you basically have are you've got say if you've got a 4-band fan dipole, you've got one cut for 10, one cut for say 15, one cut for 20, and then one cut for 40, or whatever bands you want to use. Those would all be resonant antennas, I would think. Again, I've never used one. Now you probably will get some interaction between, so it's not going to be as good as using just a pure monoband tuned for that frequency, but that might be a good way to go. Either one works. I've used the off-center fed for a long time, but the fan dipole is intriguing. So the thing about an antenna is it doesn't really matter just as long as you get that thing up in the air and operate. That's the important part.
You are so correct.
I think on an off-center fed, it's going to be resonant on multiple bands too, but where the difference is going to be is on the patterns on the different bands. On a fan dipole, each of the bands should have the same pattern that you'd expect from a dipole, but on an off-center fed, even though it's resonant on these different frequencies, the pattern's going to be different on each frequency.
Got different lobes coming off, but I would think that perhaps even the interaction between the different dipoles on the fan would probably cause some lobing as well. But I don't know. I haven't seen any modeling on that, but that's an interesting question, something to check out.
Absolutely. And it's funny that we have such a broad answer from just 2 people. Imagine if you put 5 people in the room, what they would say. Anyhow, just my opinion on that. Okay, upgrades, you guys, or new licensees. I'd like to get over that, and then we can probably close this up for the night, I think. VA3 HEM was licensed in March. Congratulations. Can't wait to hear you up there. And KB4 LHP, he upgraded to, actually, I think it's a he. I didn't actually check. I'm sorry about that. Upgraded to Extra from Advance in May. So you guys, congratulations there. Any new licensees, you guys send us all an email. We'd love to talk about you on the air. So
absolutely.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And Don, to answer your question, yes. Sometimes I do believe that Don suffers with a 5-year-old trapped in a grown man's body with you.
Oh, absolutely. I'm as childish as they can get. And getting back to new hams again, congratulations to Nick Jones, KE0ATH, 16 years old. This ain't no old man's hobby, that's for sure. I'm so proud of these young people. So proud of them.
That's right. And let's see. I'm not closing up the show, really, I don't think. But Dale, do you have any final comments for us?
Just a reminder about the Coast Guard special event with Gordo and I both on operating about 1 in the afternoon on Sunday Central Time, about 2 o'clock Eastern Time. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Just listen for K1CG right around 14,327 and Gordo up on 28,327. Go ahead.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Dale. And I'll send it to George. Take it away.
Okay, Amanda, thanks for all the great questions tonight to everyone in the chat room there. You gave Don and I a little opportunity to show our knowledge on those 2 antennas. But hey, I think you could probably work either antenna and you'd be just fine. The nets tonight, I don't know the frequency on the 40-meter net. It's going to be somewhere around 7.278, I think, but you can just tune around there. You'll find it. The 40-meter net, that was 40-meter. The 20-meter is going to be on 14.268 tonight. D-Star net on reflector 14, module C as always. And there will be no Echolink net tonight. Dave is on vacation, and he needed a break because he's here every week doing the nets. So there won't be an Echolink net for tonight. And remember, I turned on this little flashlight a little earlier, and we're going to see if it's still running next week. Don?
Excellent show, everybody. We've had a great show tonight, and thanks to all of our net control operators for all the long hours that they put in after the show, taking care of everybody both on the over-the-air nets and also on the digital nets on D-Star and on Echolink. They're kind of the unsung heroes of the support staff, as you will, for those behind us, and we appreciate everything that they do. Such a wonderful bunch of people. I'm so proud to be involved in this show. It's amazing. We do have a good, wide-ranging knowledge base, both here on camera and also behind the scenes in the chat room. A lot of questions get answered in the chat room, and keep sending those in. So I guess that'll go ahead and put a wrap on things. Gordon, of course, out on the West Coast has gone on to other duties tonight, and I believe Bob is probably cuddling up with Sarah on the couch somewhere, enjoying a lovely beverage. So I believe I'll go do the same with my lovely wife, Dawn. And so we'll wish all of you a good night, and thanks for watching. And 7-3 from everybody here involved at Ham Nation. We'll see you next week. Good night.
Good night.